Hello and welcome to this session, The Person of the Therapist. I'm delighted to welcome and introduce my guest today, Michelle Holloway. Michelle, welcome. I'm so delighted that you could spend some time with us and share some of your stories, play therapy, how you became a clinician, what were the touchstones in your own journey, and what is it that you feel passionate about? So let's begin with, what degree do you have? What is your title or professional field?
Hi. Well, hello, Dr. D. I am honored to be here. Um, I have my first degree is in urban studies. I have an undergrad in urban studies.
Uh-huh.
I have a master's in human services, and I have a master's in professional counseling. And my licensure is LCPC, which is Licensed Clinical Professional Counselor.
Now, I did mention play therapy because I'm familiar that that is one of the approaches that you embrace. What is the population? How would you describe the population that you work with?
Well, I work in the city of College Park. The population ages are 18 months to 18 years. Yeah,
18 months to
18
18 years.
months. I've had a client as young as 18 months.
Oh my. Then first of all, the expanse of that developmentally and all the things that can happen, all the
Indeed.
traumas and grief, that I'm just imagining you're filled with the entire range of family problems, community problems, individual suffering and trauma.
Yeah.
Um, so your emphasis then is through the whole range. What approaches do you use in, in the like play therapy?
Mhm.
What type of play therapy and what other approaches do you favor? Do you really lean into?
Yeah. We play therapy is one modality that we use. Um, with all of my clients, when they come in, I want them to build a bit of trust first before we go directly into play therapy. Not all clinicians will do that, but I will invite them into my office space first before we go directly into the playroom, and I'll tell them, this is your space, and I ask them what it is that they want to work on, even when they come with specific concerns.
Mhm.
What we find is the parents' concerns 99.9% of the time differ from what the kids' concerns are. And because we're going in with the with the child, it's important to know what it is that, why are you here? A lot of people come to counseling and they don't even know why they're there.
Oh,
So it's important for me as a clinician to um, just support the kid in understanding that what they need and what they feel and what they're thinking, it's valid and it's acknowledged.
yeah.
I think that's important for just foundational work, just the very beginning.
Uh-huh.
And even though we do play therapy, I, sometimes it's the assumption that kids, because they're kids, they want to play. A lot
Yeah.
of times, my kids don't want to play. They come in and they're like, okay, Miss Michelle or Miss Hall, whatever they call me. Um, and that's another thing that we try to support them with too, is how to acknowledge us. Some uh, programs have, you call them by the last name or you call them
Um,
by the first name only or whatever the case may be. I like to give them a choice.
yeah.
Uh,
Mhm.
Different cultures require different title acknowledgments.
Yeah.
So I don't ever want to make any assumptions about the kids coming in. And the assumption that they want to play is an assumption because sometimes
Mhm.
they just don't want to.
Mhm.
So, again, I bring them in, I see where they are, and I give them a couple choices as to what we're going to do that day, and they get to decide if they
Mm.
want to stay in here. do sand, if they want to work on the board, if they want to do art, if they want to go in the playroom, or if they just want to talk.
Right.
And this is every single week.
And this very much resonates with a humanistic, child-centered, family-centered approach to therapy. So would you say that you lean into more the humanistic approaches, just following the lead of the client and including
Absolutely.
the children? Really, it sounds like you're really respecting who they are right away instead of that power one up, one down. There's a more of a collaborative grounding of respect between you and the child.
It is so a part of what we do that even, well, starting around 3 years old, they'll come in and they just know what the routine is. They have a seat, they share their good, bad, ugly, and then they say, "This is what I want to do today." And we go from there. And it just becomes ritualistic, if you will. And sometimes
Mhm.
even little tiny ones will come and sit and say, "I need to have a conversation about this, that, or the other." And that's for me the work. That's the work unfolding. The beauty in seeing that consistence.
Mm,
It's just so
mm,
profound to
mm,
see,
mm.
this is the expectation. They come in and, you know, after a few sessions, I don't have to say anything. They'll just introduce themselves to the space and we get started.
Michelle, I'm very interested in how you arrived at who you are. But before we go there,
Yeah.
you did mention that your first priority is creating that bridge of trust.
Yes.
And if you could give us an example of how, if someone's asking, if one of our viewers is going, well, but how do you do that? What
Yeah.
would you tell them?
I think trust is established by presence and just really be just it's when you're a therapist, when you start on this journey, there are so many things in your head.
No.
Um, the the teaching is so vast. It's a lot to learn in a 2 year period. And I think when we come in, we believe that we have to know all the things, do all the things, look for all the things. The thing you want to do coming into this field is being present. That is the most important thing. Just stay there, stay with them. You can't establish trust if you are trying to put the cart before the horse, knowing what people need before they even give you, why I'm here. We try to be just too many things, and all you have to be is present.
And a
Just
deep presence.
a
Just
deep presence.
beautiful.
Just stay in the space, stay in the moment. Be careful with projecting, and we all project because we're human beings,
Yeah.
but you just have to, just stay in the moment. And it takes work. It really does. It takes work. It takes a lot of discipline because we want to go in and fix. I know what's wrong with you. I, especially we read the papers, we read the intake forms, and we think, oh, I remember I studied that in class. This is what's going on with them.
Mm.
Every single person is different,
Mhm.
but every single person needs their therapist to be present. Again, deep presence. I think
I
that's
love
how,
it.
yeah, that's
And
how you establish trust. That's the foundational stuff. And when you move too quickly, you'll see that. And it's okay because you can go back and reestablish, you know, the commitment or reestablish the trust or whatever the words people want to use. It's all about just staying in the space, in the current space.
and I really hear that as your mind is present, your body is present, your senses there's nothing escaping to notes or trying to figure
Yes,
something out or preparing for what you're going to
yes,
say next. What I understand what you're saying is an incredible presence that is right there, um, so fully receptive to those young clients.
indeed. And their parents, both,
Yes.
everyone in the who comes into the space deserves the same level of commitment, the same level of um, trust, of respect.
Yeah.
When we get little, the younger the kid
Mm.
is, the more we see the entire family shows up. And we want to just make sure everyone is heard, everyone is honored, everyone feels a sense of dignity and just
Mm.
feels a part of whatever the process is going to be. I hear you, I see you, I'm going to respond to you because people feel unseen. That's why they come to therapy, right? My
Yes.
people aren't listening to me, people aren't hearing me. My kid is, all the things. And again, what it comes down to is I see you, I hear you, and let me respond to you in a way that's respectful, that's
Mm.
kind, that's genuine, that's gentle. And then for me as a therapist, then I go on to support them in learning how to do that for one another.
Beautiful. So empowering. I think we could spend a great deal of time with you guiding us through some examples. But what I'd like to do now is circle us back and find out, how did you get there?
Uh,
Like, they didn't tell you in graduate school, oh, just be present. You worked and you come with a sense of, who's Michelle? What
yeah,
happened to you? If you could share with us some of those moments, some of those touchstones in your own life,
yeah,
that reflect what you value or who you are, and how you arrived here. Would you mind sharing some of those
absolutely. Of
touchstones? Okay.
course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My interest in exploring or understanding the human condition started with my mom. She was a back in the 80s, we called them residential counselors. I don't know what they're called now, but it was basically the people who stayed, uh, who watched people in different programs, if you will, sort of the security guards, if you
Oh,
will.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
And she worked at a shelter for women who were unhoused. And that would be my second job. I would actually come to work with her, and nepotism wasn't such a bad thing that
Yeah.
I worked at her job at that place. And I was probably 20 years old then,
Mm.
19, 20. And I was one of the youngest people there. And me supporting those women through different crises, it was just not respected at all. They were like, "You're a little girl, you don't know, you
Mm.
can't help me," all of the stuff.
Mm.
But I knew that my purpose was to support women through
Mhm.
devastations. I just knew it. I knew at that young age. I don't know that it that I knew younger as a younger person. I just always had a certain just understanding that something needed to shift in the human and just human processing something. I remember just being so profoundly touched with women's issues and issues of war and poverty, and I just knew if I could just show one person at a time, I feel you, I hear you, I understand you. Maybe that could help. I don't know if this was ego driven or I don't know what it was, but there was something there. And
Compassion, certainly. Empathy,
yeah,
certainly.
and I didn't feel even then. We all go through our stumbling blocks in this profession.
Mhm.
but I didn't even feel then that I could fix it. I just wanted to be a part of uh, people's experience, just to show them, listen, there is someone here. There's a humankind who understands. I may not be able to change your situation, but I can sure, together we can put some stuff in place that'll maybe help you to experience it differently. And
Mhm.
even at that age, um, that was kind of my thoughts on it. And
Mhm.
then it became, oh, well, Michelle, you can't just go around, you know, helping people and changing and shifting. There's some education that goes with that. So that's where it started.
Wow, wow. Michelle, who were you when you were a little girl, when you were playing? Is there a memory that you have, the very roots of this? You were generous and deeply empathic at 20. You had the skills of presence before
Yeah,
any training. So, would you shed some light on
yeah,
the playful you, the little you, or
yeah,
the little wise you that was already seeing human devastation and mean spiritedness or craziness, whatever,
yeah,
very young? Do you think that early experiences help shape
probably.
this depth? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my parents were very young when I was born.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of, not sort of, I guess I grew with my mother. We grew
Mm-hmm.
together. We became, um, she is 15 years, well, was, God rest her soul. I miss her profoundly. She was 15 years older than I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember just watching her for every space of understanding and expression. And she didn't do it so well initially.
Mm-hmm.
She struggled. She was a child.
Yes.
But I remember just even as a little girl, there were pockets of things that were so profound that I said life has to be this pocket. I was just telling my daughter, probably one of my daughters, probably 2 days ago, how I remember there's this song that my mother used to love. And I remember her putting the 45 record on and us jumping on the bed singing the song with a tube of chapstick. And I still, at this big age, I still remember the smells and I remember the thoughts and I remember just these feelings of elation.
Mm.
And those feelings would get me through pieces in my own life where trials and tribulations would come. I would remember, and I still do that to this day. I remember that trouble don't last always,
Yeah.
even as a kid. Um, and she tried, she um, would go on to get her doctorate, and she did she was very well known in this field. And then she got cancer and died. So that was a different time of, huh, what is
Mm.
this supposed to teach me?
No.
What is the lesson in this thing? I think that part of my being is more describes where I am more now than my childhood. There was a space of my childhood that led me to a space in my life. But the losing of my mother was a different unfolding of womanhood for me. And it taught me just so many other things, so many more positive things about
Hmm.
the value of life and the
Mm.
value of consideration and the value of uh, decency, the value of being present. Her my mother was certainly my hero, even in those times of discord. I swear, even as a kid, I was like, okay, she's yelling and screaming and acting a fool. But
Yes.
what do I need to shift? Okay, Michelle, go. You did not clean the room like you said you did. So just go and do the thing.
Oh,
So I
good.
had to grow up really quickly in order to save my own self
Mhm.
from the things I could have told myself about what about my life as a child. I had to grow up quickly, I guess, in my thinking.
Michelle, I wonder, to honor your mom, if you would like to say her name.
Her name is Millicent Doreen Sims.
Maleficent,
Yes, Millicent
Dor, Millicent Doreen
Sims.
Sims.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And it was Dr. Sims.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
And as you reflect, you mentioned a daughter
Hmm.
and the full circle of her grandmother starting out being a woman of courage, a woman of compassion. And then I begin to see the thread with your compassion with women who had no housing, who were abused, who were at a loss for
Yes.
support. And your that incredible compassion that your mother demonstrated, plus her unique situation and the amazing courage and journey that we can only imagine that she was on.
Indeed.
Amazing. And now, and then I wonder, do you see these values that you mentioned as a way to bridge that with your daughter?
Oh yeah. I think the yeah, it's this is so strange because even though my mom was my hero, I think every generation tells itself that we need to be better than the last. I'm
Yeah.
going to either be like the person or I'm going to be so different from them that my life will be better, thus my children's life will be better, and so on and so
In
forth.
some way,
In
in
some
some
way.
way.
The
Yeah.
older I get, though, the more I hear myself sounding like my mom to my daughters.
Uh-huh.
But I think the difference is um, my family has always had a no nonsense space of excellence. You must achieve, you work hard, you follow the footsteps. You work hard, there's the education, and there's the home, and then there's the family and all the order. And
Mhm.
I think where I differ is um the expectation for my children is for my children to contribute kindly to the world in whatever that is. Don't leave a wake of hurt with other people. That's
Mhm.
what's important to me. Now, can you can you be a vagabond and not, do your education and contribute to yourself financially? No, you can't do that. But what's the most important to me for them is to be kind human beings. Be kind. It doesn't cost anything. And they have just it's who they are. And that's kind of the thing I've always said. Even as that didn't take long because I knew I didn't want to push them academically. Um, and they always just seem to excel. So
Mhm.
I'm kind of lucky that way. They weren't difficult children to raise,
Mhm.
but it's always still now just important. Just be kind. And they are very kind, gentle, loving human
Oh,
beings. And that's all. And for me, that's the reflection that I get back
yeah.
because I listen to my daughters talk and I say, oh, that sounds like me, which in turn sounds like my mom. And it sounds like my grandmother, who was
Mm,
the
mm.
most gentle soul.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah,
So
yeah,
Michelle, I can hear the thread, the ribbon, as it were, threading through, and then I imagine you presenting these sensibilities, these sensitivities to those families that come to see you in therapy. You have a, a lived experience that is reflective of the need for kindness, support, compassion, empathy, and then the strength that it takes to hold your own
yeah,
lived experience and um, understanding grief at its bones, and then to be able to listen and to support those families and the moms that
yeah,
come to you, I imagine,
indeed.
that your mother was in not only your mother but a mentor.
Oh,
She was
yeah,
a model of of being able to reclaim oneself, one's identity. It's beautiful,
yeah,
beautiful
yeah.
story.
I
Um,
think,
yes, please.
yeah, I absolutely. I think we have to support with all of those foundational things before we get to honesty.
Yeah.
And I think when we start on this journey, you know, even in school and, through our colleagues, we're kind of told, well, the thing is, a client has to be honest. You have to get honest with yourself. Honesty, honesty. But that
Mhm,
honesty, that's the most difficult space to be in,
mhm,
right? You get
mhm.
there almost, and that's the last result.
Yeah.
That's right before termination is coming.
Oh,
So
yes.
I think
Yeah.
if we dispel the myth that honesty is, you know, has to come so early. Gosh, we lie to ourselves every day, all day long. It's
Yes.
a lie.
Yes.
So to say that this thing has to come in session one or session two,
Mm,
you're gonna really be fooling yourself because it doesn't come. You gotta even the therapist has to
yeah.
work on some honesty
Yes. One would hope. Yes.
before
Yes.
we even get them to
Maybe a lot of honesty.
a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah,
I really want to highlight what you just said in terms of that honesty, that the opposite is coping, like where everyone's coping,
mhm.
and that honesty, that um, you know, sense of taking responsibility to be able to move forward ownership of one's life does arrive at the end, and maybe beginning of the path that you mentioned, that bridge to trust and permission for people to begin to be not stuck in
Yeah,
rote
yeah,
hoping.
yeah,
That, yeah. Hmm.
yeah. Permission. I love that word.
Hmm.
I
You've brought us on a journey in terms of how you hold and are so deeply present to those that are wounded that come to you, the families, the children that are suffering, allowing them voice to say why they think they're there. And then you've given us this beautiful rainbow of the feminine, of the journey of grandmother, mother, daughter, and there's so much more to that. Given this incredible meaning, how you bring meaning in your life, I always ask people to bring two symbols, and I wonder if this might be the time for you to present your individual symbols and what do they represent to you.
okay. All right. I have two symbols here.
All right, so let's take one at a time and then
Okay.
hold one right up to the camera and tell us, there we go. And what, how would you describe this figure?
This figure for me is an angel. And I think for me, the angel represents what we think we have to bring to this field in a sense that we believe we have to, you know, I the angel for me is like, the violin,
Hmm.
how we think we have to be the violin. We think we have to know it all. We
Oh,
think we have to be all. We
yeah.
think we have to solve all.
Mm.
And that is what's problematic for to me in this field. The being all with, by the way, kind of no peer group. We need peers. Gosh, I want to really, really emphasize the importance of staying grounded with peers in this field. And not, I don't mean just supervision. I
Right.
mean people who are in the struggle, people
Mhm.
who are in the trenches,
Mhm.
people who are thinking they have to be, we come in and that's what burns people out. I didn't solve a problem today.
Mm.
And then we start second guessing our whole purpose. That's what the angel represents, the lie to me.
Yes. Yes.
And
As
she
if you
looks
could be, as
as
if you,
if you could be all the things.
yeah.
She's beautiful.
Mhm. It's very ethereal. It's not grounded. But there's a sense of hope, but then it's not grounded in, oh, it's not going to, somebody else isn't, no angel's going to do this for me. I've got to do the work, got to do the hard work. And I
Yeah,
love the way you just really emphasize that being in the trenches with peers, with colleagues who understand and who don't have pretenses about and grandiosities about what they're doing, but
yeah.
are doing the hard work.
Yeah. And
Um,
even those too, Dr. D, even the ones with the grandiosities, the ones who are ego driven and the ones who I think it's important that we get the perspectives from those people
okay.
because those perspectives a lot of times are the ones that are driving the boat, but they go hidden. People don't people are afraid to say, oh my gosh, I feel like them not succeeding or them not achieving their goals is based on something I didn't do.
Mm,
Or,
mm,
what does that mean for me? I think that's what's not talked about enough in this field. We talk about, oh, we meet in we meet it for consults or we meet for supervision and we talk about the client,
yeah.
but we rarely talk about
Mhm.
I'm sorry, something.
No, please, please.
This
This is,
is my experience with having that experience. And we lie about it. We just, because we feel like it's, oh my gosh, what's going to happen if I show a certain vulnerability
oh,
about my own work?
mhm,
What
mhm,
happens to me then? And I
mm,
think we need to talk about the vulnerabilities and the ineptness that we feel when things don't necessarily go our way because I don't care how we commune about this thing.
yeah,
Ultimately, you want to see people reach their goals. And when that doesn't happen, how do we process through as therapists?
mhm,
That's the thing that's not talked about enough.
mm.
What do we go home with? You know,
Yeah.
how
That's the piece
do it?
that you most, I think I'm really hearing the strength behind this for you. This is what you really would like therapist and training programs and graduate programs and all of the stuff to really embrace the conversations that are not being spoken. The truths then, to come
Yeah,
back to that, that
yeah,
are not being shared.
yeah. This is, this work is real life. This is as real life as it's gonna get. And there are some things that come with it that they don't talk about enough,
Yeah,
or if at all. And the fear of talking about it is, will I be ousted from my program
sure.
because I've said I'm vulnerable in certain areas. So
Right.
yeah, I think it needs to be, people need to understand this is not a lot of people come in thinking I am coming in here to fix people,
Oh, and
to save your life.
yeah. Wow, that's a lot of power.
That's a lot of power that you ain't gonna get or have.
You
But
have, yes, now introduce us, please, who right up to the camera.
this is my character. She is a member of the Dora
Uh-huh.
from the
Mhm.
Black Panther
Yes, yes,
series. And
yes, there she is.
what the Dora represents is, for me, uh, she's a warrior, but she's a warrior who relies on a team. The door, they don't work in isolation of the others. They all work together. And she is powerful, she's
Mm,
strong, but she's vulnerable and
mhm,
she's honest and she is flawed. And I think
mm,
that is because she can't do it by herself. She's not um an island. She requires a team, and I think this
mm,
work 100% represents the door. It represents the
mm,
angel too, because we have to be able to share, what's happening with us at any given moment in order to receive from the Dora, right?
yeah.
This is what's happening with me. I need some support in whatever area. But I think remembering that this is not um this profession is not an individual
Yeah.
run. And if you, even in private practice, you need colleagues, you need people, you need to bounce this stuff off, and not necessarily what's happening with the clients, but what's happening with you as a
Yeah.
human.
Yes.
What's happening? What's going on with you? How are you? We need people to, and again, of course, therapists need therapy,
Mhm.
but I'm talking about the the nitty gritty, dirty, slimy, yucky that
Yeah.
we go through. We
Mm,
need people to share that stuff with.
yes.
That's what's so important. And understanding that I am not dealing with this by myself. A therapist does.
Michelle,
I'm sorry.
sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
It can just be so lonely
Yes.
if you're
Yes.
afraid of what you are experiencing, afraid of the honesty of that. And I think, when you can just go in and say, oh my gosh, I feel like some trash. I said this wrong. I did that wrong. Or,
Mm,
but what was going on with me that I didn't, whatever the case may be, we
mhm.
have to have people who we can share those things with.
Michelle, if your two figures
Hmm.
were to speak to each other and say something to each other, who would speak and what would they say?
I think the Dora will speak to the angel and she would say, I got you, girl.
Mm, mm,
And the angel would say, thank you. I didn't know that. I didn't know that I could share these things and they would be received and I wouldn't feel shame after sharing these things. And then they would embrace and they would become one.
mhm, mhm. So,
Yeah.
Michelle, in your own silence, without sharing with us, take a few seconds to ask them, the figures, what they would say to you. And then I'll ask you to have them turn to us and tell us what they want us to hear. But first, give the privilege to yourself. Let them speak to you. We'll just be silent for a few seconds here. How was that for you, Michelle?
It was good.
You don't need to share. It was meaningful.
Indeed.
Now, if they were to turn to us and 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 using their incredible combined intuitions and sensibilities and strengths, what would they say? So just take a moment and yes, here they are together.
They would
What are they
say,
going to tell us?
we're here. We're here. We see you, you know, and we'll help you to see yourself.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
You're so welcome.
Wonderful. Michelle, what do you wish you had known when you were in graduate school or internship in this journey of becoming a therapist? At any point, everybody, we all become aware of something like, oh, I didn't know that. Is there some piece of an insight that you'd like to share and what you'd wish you'd known?
Um, hmm. I wish I had known that, I don't know, that the world is going to change and what I hold as important is going to change. Um, and I wish I had known that because sometimes when we argue for something, it's so passionate that you can't come back from that level of passion. And maybe years later or months later, you see, oh,
Mm.
I can change my point of view now. So, what I wish I had known is that nothing is forever.
And yeah, and I think there's some hope enfolded right in there that because nothing is forever ever, that the
Absolutely.
suffering and the humiliation and the shames and that one's life can be, that what we can be seen, that we can be heard for who we actually are, that we can find a piece of truth that begins to resonate with who we are, as you've given us during this brief conversation. Michelle, you're a play therapist. You mentioned working with an incredible 18-month all the way up through the teens. What wisdoms would you like us to understand? Like, I think it's going to surprise many viewers that parents would bring in someone so young.
Oh, yeah. Um,
So, what tell us a little bit about that work, if you would.
well, I think it's important to know what it is that you are passionate about. That's so important. When we go into this field, it's wide open. Unless you do marriage and family, I think it's open. You can kind of go anywhere you want to go. And I think it's important to know what what population you'd like to work with. Because it's where you're going to do your best work. If you're working this just to work it, it's not going to be as effective for you, and it's not going to be as effective for the client.
Mm-hmm.
Um, while I work with the entire family,
Mm-hmm.
I've individual work and group work is it's just my thing. And I love team groups.
Would you introduce us then to your teen group, what you're doing with them, and how that's going? And this is where we start to enter. What have you learned from your clients?
Yeah. What I've learned from my clients is um, there is a lot of work to be done with kids from, and I say teen group, but the the teen group population is there's one group from 10 to 13 and another group from 13 to
Oh,
18 or 14
uh-huh.
to
Uh-huh.
18. And
Mhm.
what I've learned is there is a lot of work for us to do. The kids are really feeling like they are not heard. They are feeling like the comparison to the older generations is just so profound. And it really is, we are really dealing with a different element than any of us have ever experienced. And I get it. At one point, the television was new. At one point, the radio was new. At
Mhm.
one point, new. But this,
Mhm.
what's different is these kids are being exposed to billions of people on the planet every day, all day. That was never our experience before
Yeah,
with any newness.
right.
They have um, a level of need that we just have not seen before.
Oh,
And their need is autonomy and for the elders to trust them, trust that they can make some decisions on
mm,
their own.
mhm,
Um, Here, when they meet with for their groups, they can just be who they want to be. As you know, of course, as long as they aren't claiming to hurt anybody or hurt themselves or all the confidentiality things, but they can just be and they appreciate a space to just be. They can talk about all the things. And
mm,
sometimes I support them through the processing, and sometimes their peers do. But we definitely need more spaces for teenagers to
mm,
just be. And the arts are great, sports is great, you know, but loading them sometimes with structured activities just doesn't give them enough space to just be kids.
wow.
And that's the loss that we're seeing with this generation. Where's the space to just be kids?
What um what do you feel are a couple of examples of what you've gained? What did you learn as you look at all of the ages that you've worked with? And I'm going to guess both the individuals as well as your groups.
Yeah,
Would you give us a, of course, keeping confidentiality, a couple of examples of lessons that you've learned from clients?
yeah. I can tell you one. Um, Working with children has taught me patience for sure. I'm not always, or I haven't always been as patient as I am now.
Mm,
And I remember when I first started working in child center, I had a kid who would go into the playroom and just every single toy had to be taken off the shelves. It had to, it would take an hour and a half to fix it back up.
mhm,
But what it taught me was that sometimes you need a bit of chaos in order to establish some chaos. I mean, some order.
yes.
And um, I was able to go in and set some limits with this client, which that too was difficult for me because I thought that the modality meant that all
Mm,
was they could do whatever,
oh,
whenever,
mhm,
however. So I wasn't clear about the modality. And then when I learned about setting limits,
uh-huh,
I said, oh, I can say you can't go in and pull out all the games. That's one of the limits. So I learned patience with limit setting at the same time, which also helped me because it helped me to be offer more grace in my own life. I can listen to you, but there can be some boundaries there too. And I learned that from a 5-year-old.
Mhm.
She was really 5 at the time. It doesn't have to be, again, all or nothing. We can mix a little bit in here and a little bit in there, and we can be kind. I was not very kind to myself after that first day. I was like, why am I doing this? What kind of place is this? And why do kids just are they allowed to just tear up the room and all the stuff? And the more I worked with her, the more I learned about myself, the more I learned about child centered. And then just the more I learned about how, like the angel in the door, it's all a mix. It's all together. It all makes one. It's no all this way or all that way. You need all of that in order to, make a good stew. You need it all. And yeah, I got that from a 5-year-old.
That's beautiful.
And just her. It only took one to
Right.
teach me all the stuff because
Wow.
she was gonna be at level 10 and level 1 all at the same time. And it,
Um,
it was such a beautiful thing
Beautiful.
to chuckle at myself. And I
Yeah.
still laugh when I go into sessions now. I swear I say it all the time in there. I'm like, oh, Michelle, you have really grown when when I use the modality, when I say, oh, you really
Yeah.
want this, that, or the other, versus, you know,
Oh.
telling them it is an amazing modality. I swear it is.
Well, and to be clear with the viewers who aren't familiar,
Mhm.
playroom at the clinic is not that where it's separate. It's a separate room that has the kitchenette and puppets and bean boxes, all kinds of toys and games. A
Yeah.
separate room from your office setting.
Separate room
Just
from my office.
yeah. So anyway, I wanted to clarify so somebody might think that your whole office was
No,
taken.
the whole office is not a playroom.
But indeed, you have many figures
Hmm.
and a drawing board and all kinds of things in your office to really signal that this is a place to respect children and the healing power of play, the
Yes.
healing power of your presence during play.
Yeah.
There's something that I think there will be viewers who'll be very interested in a piece of advice on running group because you run group for two very different, the young preteen
Mhm.
and early teens, and then the older teens. What advice would you give our viewers that also think that we need more spaces for teens to be real?
Yeah, I think if you see the need, go fill the need. We didn't have this teen group. Um, I saw the need of a couple of, we all saw the need. And I said, well, now it's time to act on the lead. And they said, well, Michelle, it's your idea, so then it's your baby. And I said, okay, bring in the baby bottle and the diapers and the wipes and all the things because I will do it. If you see it,
Do it.
figure out how to do it
Mm.
because your intuition is probably not wrong. Um, and that goes for anything in this field. If you see the field is changing, the needs are changing. You may have to go, before, maybe a political space that you have to dance in, but that's okay.
Mhm.
Go fill the void. And then let the kids, or the families, or whatever you see as the need, let them drive the boat. Ask them what they need. What is it that you want to gain from your time here?
Mhm.
And let's see how we can incorporate that into what we're doing here. Um, Curriculum is beautiful, but you got to be able to adjust it.
Yeah, beautiful.
There
That's
are millions of pieces of curriculum. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you definitely should be, letting people steer what their needs are.
Beautiful. You're empowering those teens at
Absolutely.
every age. And
Absolutely.
I can just hear you with your full presence, modeling for them that the steps towards honesty, the steps towards, I have something to say here, and I'm only 13 or I'm only 17, but I can say it and I'm not going to be shamed or humiliated or it have to fight. That your sense of collaborative, empowering presence for them. It just seems so vital,
Yeah.
especially for this age. And your reference, I think you're referring to the computer age, the media age, the massive, um, intense exposure to global um, distortions
Yes.
and stories and all things that we could learn and all things that can sabotage
Yeah.
living one's life. Michelle, if we could end with two things. One is there something about you that we haven't touched on that you'd like to share? And then is there a wisdom that you, from your heart, that you would like to speak to our viewers?
Well, I'm gonna be brief. I just want to say, remember to give yourself grace. Remember that. It it can get lost. Grace will get lost. Be kind to yourself. In spaces when you can't be kind to yourself, reach out to someone who can be kind to you.
Mm.
It is so important to take care of yourself. You know, the adage, you cannot pour from an empty cup is real, especially when you are in the helping profession. You cannot give away what you don't have. It is an impossibility because your clients will see that you are lying. So just remember to fill your cup or have someone pouring into your cup.
Mm. Michelle, I believe that that is the essence of who you are, as well as the wisdom that you have. You've poured our cups from, I imagine, your grandmothers, through your mother, through yourself, and then opening up your heart and your story and your wisdoms to us today. I'm grateful and appreciative of your presence here in our conversation. Thank you so much. Now, if you'll hold on, I'm going to invite our viewers to take up Michelle's wisdom as your own, to nurture yourself and to find those when you're feeling empty that will help pour in kindness and appreciation. And the essence of what Michelle is saying is we see you, we hear you. Come among the people who will choose and want to see you and want to be present in that meaningful, truth filled way. Thank you. Please take very good care. I'll see you all next time, metaphorically speaking, in our next exploration of the person of the therapist. Take very good care.